at the level that your improvising is at right now, okay, you've already got some technical skills. You can move around, you can find your way around the scale, you have a good general sense of where the notes are, you know, being able to play in key. Mm-hmm. So you've gotten that part already established, okay? So you got a basis there. And what you need now is not more licks or phrases or, you know, concepts for improvising. What you need now is the first thing that Dan mentioned a little bit on the vibrato. We'll do a little work on that in just a minute before we're done here. Mm-hmm. But really we need to train your ear, okay, so that you can make the decisions about whether or not a note sounds good to you in a particular context over a particular chord. We need to make that decision faster. Because right now you're playing a note and then it takes a couple seconds for you to realize or decide, do I like how this sounds or not? Well, that space, that time, does a couple of things. First, the note is just sort of hanging there waiting for you to decide, okay? And because it's hanging there waiting for you to decide, if the note isn't consonant of the chord, it's just dissonance that's not being resolved or controlled. And even when the note is consonant, it is part of the chord, and it does sound good, it's not convincing because you yourself are not yet convinced. So you're not able to do much with it yet until you've made the decision, oh yeah, this note sounds good at this point in time over this chord. Okay? So we need to shorten the amount of time it takes for you to recognize if the note sounds good once you hear it or not. So that's the first step. We're going to work to shorten that. And the way to do that is to play slow enough, don't play a lot of notes, and do a lot of listening and then deciding. The more you do that, the faster your ear will be able to recognize, is it consonant or dissonant? Does it sound good to me or not? Okay, so that's the first sort of phase, is to get your ear to catch up to your hands.
Okay. And with that exercise we just did, I just do that.
Right, slowly.
Make that part of my practice.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay, now there's a phase after that. Okay, what's going to happen is, doing what Dan suggested, you're going to get to the point eventually where you will be able to make those conscious decisions. You play the note, you'll be able to decide quickly, do I like how this sounds or not? Okay, but there's a step or a phase of development that's better than that, which is knowing in advance before you play the notes, is it going to sound good and what is it going to sound like? Okay, that's sort of the next step beyond the step you're at right now. So you'll be able to, your ear will be so developed that you'll already know when the F sharp minor chord is being played right now. If you play the C sharp note, you'll know, is that consonant or dissonant? And you'll know what it sounds like, what it feels like. Okay, if you play the D note against it, you'll know what that feels like. Okay, you'll already know what it sounds and feels like in advance, so then you won't even have to listen and analyze what you're playing because you'll already know. It's like being a mind reader. Okay, if Dan says something and he's speaking another language, or you don't, if English was not your first language, all right, and he's speaking English, and let's say you're a native Spanish speaker, it may take you time until you're fluent enough in English to be able to understand what he's saying, because what's happening is he's speaking in English, you're trying to translate it to Spanish in order to understand, then you have to translate your response back to English in order to communicate back. That's sort of what's happening here. As you get more fluent in English, you won't have to make the translation because you can think in English. So that's what we're trying to get you to do. Like a Spanish speaker, being able to think in English. So very quickly, you'll be able to know what he's saying and what it means right away. But the next step is for me to pull out a magic wand and give it to you, and now you can read his mind. So before he even says what he wants to say, you already know what's coming. That's what we're really working towards. But we've got to get through this phase of getting you fluent in English first. And that's what Dan said is going to do for you. That's how you get there. Okay?